The massive chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with golden lights, its towering walls lined with banners of hundreds of alien civilizations. In the center, a circular platform hovered just above the floor, where representatives from every major species had gathered. They had come to discuss a matter they considered laughably insignificant: the fate of humanity. Ambassador Daniel Carter sat alone at the human delegation station, his expression calm. Around him, powerful leaders from across the galaxy whispered and chuckled among themselves. To them, Earth was a backwater planet, a species that had only recently stepped beyond its atmosphere. They saw no reason to treat humans as equals. Chancellor Varnock, a towering reptilian figure with deep crimson scales, stood from his seat. His voice was sharp, commanding attention. "Let us speak plainly," Varnock declared, his slitted eyes narrowing at Carter. "The humans are weak. Their history is nothing but wars against themselves. They are reckless, emotional, and unpredictable. Do they truly deserve a place among us?" A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. A short, insectoid ambassador clicked its mandibles. "They still rely on primitive technology. Their ships are barely faster than light. Their military is a joke." Another alien, a floating jelly-like being, pulsed with amusement. "And yet, they believe they can negotiate with us as equals. How adorable." Laughter filled the hall, a mix of deep growls, shrill screeches, and electronic hums. Daniel remained silent, his face unreadable. He had expected this. Varnock smirked, stepping closer to the center. "Ambassador Carter, tell us, what does humanity bring to the stars? Why should we tolerate your presence in this council? Speak, if you believe you have anything worth saying." The laughter died down as all eyes turned to the human diplomat. Daniel finally stood, adjusting his suit. His movements were slow, deliberate. He looked around the room, meeting the gazes of powerful beings who had ruled the galaxy for centuries. "I have heard your words," he said, his voice even. "And I wonder, do you mock us because you truly believe we are weak, or because you fear what happens if you are wrong?" Silence. A few of the council members shifted uncomfortably. Others scoffed. "Fear you? An avian-like ambassador cawed. You are barely more than children in the cosmos." Daniel smiled slightly. "Children grow, and when they do, they remember who insulted them." Varnock bared his fangs. "Enough of your arrogance, human. The council will vote. Should Earth be denied access to interstellar trade and alliances?" The holographic voting panels flickered to life. Across the chamber, representatives made their choices. The results were swift. Humanity was being cast aside. Daniel watched the results without reaction. He was not surprised. But he was not finished. Taking a deep breath, he straightened his posture and prepared to say something that would shake the entire council to its core. A heavy silence filled the Galactic Council chamber. The decision had been made. Earth would be denied access to interstellar trade and alliances. The voting results glowed in the air, cold and final. Humanity was dismissed. Daniel Carter remained standing, his expression unreadable. The council members, however, were far from silent. The moment the vote was cast, murmurs of amusement rippled through the chamber. Some chuckled openly, while others exchanged smug glances. Chancellor Varnock leaned back in his seat, pleased. "And so it is decided. The humans will remain in their corner of the galaxy, where they belong." A tall, crystalline alien, its voice sharp like breaking glass, spoke next. "Honestly, I expected more. For a species so fond of conflict, I assumed you would at least argue." A deep mechanical laugh echoed from a cyborg ambassador. "Maybe they finally understand their place." How refreshing. More laughter followed. Some members pounded their desks in amusement, while others openly mocked Earth's achievements. Daniel exhaled slowly. He had been in difficult negotiations before, but never had he seen such open disrespect. They weren't just denying Earth a seat at the table, they were humiliating humanity. Then Varnock smirked and crossed the line. You know, Ambassador Carter, the Chancellor said, his voice dripping with mock sympathy, I once wondered why your kind fights among itself so much. But now I see the truth. You war with each other because you are too weak to challenge anyone else. The laughter grew louder. Some aliens clapped their appendages together in cruel amusement. Daniel's grip tightened. He had been patient. He had endured the insults, the arrogance, the laughter. He had given them every chance to treat humanity with respect. But this was different. He took a step forward. The room quieted slightly as he locked eyes with Varnock. Are you finished? Daniel asked, his voice low. The Chancellor sneered. Oh, does the insect have a sting after all? Daniel chuckled softly, but there was no humor in his voice, only certainty. You have just made the greatest mistake in your people's history, he said. You assumed that because humanity has struggled, we are weak. Because we have fought, we are broken. Because we have suffered, we are lesser. He let the words sink in. No one laughed now. But let me tell you what history says about those who mock us. A few ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Varnock's smirk faltered. Daniel was not begging. He was warning. And soon, the entire galaxy would learn why. The chamber of the Galactic Council, once filled with laughter, had grown unnaturally silent. The mocking smirks, the arrogant glances, all had faded. Daniel Carter stood firm in the center, his gaze locked onto Chancellor Varnock. The reptilian leader, so confident moments ago, now looked at the human diplomat with something bordering on unease. You speak as if humanity is weak, Daniel continued, his voice calm but unshakable. But let me show you what weakness truly is. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a small device on his wrist. A holographic display emerged in the center of the room. At first, the screen showed nothing but static. Then, images appeared. Not just images. History. The council members watched as scenes of human resilience, ingenuity, and defiance played out before them. A ruined city after a catastrophic disaster, yet humans rebuild, stronger than before. A battlefield where outnumbered soldiers fight not for conquest, but for survival and win. A starving world where humanity refuses to surrender, turning deserts into farmland and waste into energy. A deep space mission where humans, against all odds, land on distant planets, claiming the stars for themselves. The images shifted again, this time to something even more unsettling. Massive space stations, hidden from galactic eyes, orbiting distant worlds. Artificial intelligence that adapts faster than any alien technology. Prototypes of weapons that seemed impossible. The council members leaned forward, their amusement replaced by disbelief. A hulking, armored alien scoffed, though his voice held less confidence than before. More human trickery. Your species is not capable of this. Daniel simply smiled. Is that what you believe? The images continued, this time, showcasing something even more disturbing. Footage from old alien wars. Not human wars, but conflicts that had shaped the galaxy for centuries. A fleet of warships from the HFY Dominion, considered invincible, obliterated by a smaller, unexpected force. An empire that ruled thousands of worlds, brought to its knees not by battle, but by its own arrogance. An unstoppable enemy, defeated by a species that refused to surrender. Daniel let the images fade, then spoke again, his voice steady. Every empire that has underestimated the underdog has eventually fallen. The meaning was clear. They had dismissed Earth, mocked humanity, denied them a seat at the table. But they had made a mistake. Varnock's expression was unreadable now, his sharp claws tapping against the desk. For the first time, he did not have a response. A nervous ambassador spoke up. You say humans have accomplished these things. But what do you seek then? War? Daniel shook his head. No. He stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the chamber. We do not seek war. We do not seek conquest. We seek respect. A few murmurs rippled through the council. Some of the more cautious species now seemed less sure of their decision to dismiss humanity. But others, like the HFY Dominion, still looked unconvinced. The tension in the room was thick, the weight of Daniel's words pressing down on everyone present. And then, an alien voice spoke up. Perhaps a test is in order. All eyes turned toward the speaker, an ambassador from the HFY Dominion. His expression was neutral, but his tone held a challenge. If humanity truly believes they are not weak, let them prove it. Daniel tilted his head slightly. And how do you suggest we do that? The alien smirked. A battle simulation. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Even Varanock looked slightly surprised. The HFY Dominion had just proposed a direct challenge to Earth's strategic and technological capabilities, and they'd fully expected humanity to fail. But Daniel Carter, he simply smiled. Very well, he said. We accept. And just like that, the fate of humanity in the stars was about to be decided. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with laughter. The moment Daniel Carter accepted the challenge, the atmosphere shifted. What had started as a joke, a chance to humiliate humanity, was now something far more serious. Chancellor Varanock leaned forward, his claws tapping against the table. You understand the stakes, human. Daniel met his gaze without hesitation. Completely. The test was simple, at least in theory. A battle simulation. A digital war against one of the most feared forces in the galaxy, the HFY Dominion. Humanity's fleet against theirs. The outcome would decide everything. If humanity lost, they would be dismissed forever, seen as nothing more than an insignificant race that got lucky surviving on their primitive little world. But if they won, the Council would have to rethink everything they thought they knew about Earth. The simulation begins. The Council members move to a vast, holographic chamber where simulated battles were often held for military strategists. A massive three-dimensional battlefield flickered to life in the center of the room. Alien fleets, planetary defenses, and asteroid belts appeared in glowing blue light. A towering HFY officer, covered in armored plates, smirked. We will grant you the advantage, human. You may choose your fleet composition first. Daniel Carter gave no reaction. He simply turned to the side, where a human officer, Commander Elena Vasquez, stood waiting. She was already inputting commands. Deploying Task Force Omega, she announced, her tone crisp. The Council members frowned. The human fleet appeared in the simulation, a small force, far smaller than the HFY's massive warships. No dreadnoughts, no superweapons, no overwhelming numbers. Just a handful of fast-moving, adaptable ships. Some aliens chuckled. That's it. That's all you bring to battle. But Daniel simply smiled. We've made our choice. Now it's yours. The HFY officer grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. Very well. Let's end this quickly. The Dominion fleet materialized. Massive, hulking battleships, bristling with weapons. To any observer, it was obvious. Humanity was outmatched. The battle begins. A countdown started. 3, 2, 1. Begin. The HFY fleet charged forward. Their strategy was obvious. Overwhelm the human ships with sheer firepower. Massive energy blasts streaked through space, targeting human vessels. Cruisers advanced in tight formation, forcing Earth's fleet toward a trap. It was the same strategy they had used in countless wars before. It had never failed. Until now. The human fleet did something unexpected. They didn't retreat. They didn't fight head-on. They vanished. The entire council chamber gasped as the human ships dispersed in all directions, moving in unpredictable patterns. Engines flared. Small vessels weaved through the enemy fleet with impossible speed. Decoy signals appeared everywhere, scrambling enemy sensors. The HFY commander snarled. What are they doing? Varanock's eyes narrowed. They're adapting. Daniel stood quietly, watching the simulation unfold with no sign of worry. A new kind of warfare. One by one, the human ships struck from the shadows. A single destroyer slipped behind an enemy cruiser and disabled its shields. A squadron of smaller fighters exploited weak points, crippling warships far larger than themselves. Electronic warfare units disrupted communications, spreading chaos through the HFY ranks. Within minutes, the battle had changed. The HFY were no longer hunting the humans. The humans were hunting them. The council members watched in stunned silence as the HFY fleet fell apart. Their massive warships, once symbols of unstoppable power, were nothing more than slow-moving targets. One by one, they were destroyed. Not by brute force, but by intelligence, speed, and strategy. In less than an hour, the outcome was clear. Humanity had won. The council's silence. The simulation ended. The battlefield vanished. Silence. Not a single council member spoke. The HFY commander looked at the results in disbelief. His fleet, utterly crushed. Varnok's jaw tightened. Impossible. Daniel Carter folded his arms. Not impossible, just unexpected. He took a step forward, addressing the entire council. You thought we were weak because we lacked numbers, because we lacked the largest warships, because we did not fight as you did. He looked toward the HFY officer. But that is why we won. Varnok's claws dug into his seat. He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. There was nothing left to say. Humanity had proven itself. The galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. And deep in the minds of the council members, one chilling thought began to form. If this is what humanity can do in a simulation, what can they do in real war? Silence filled the chamber. The holographic battlefield had vanished, but the weight of its outcome remained heavy in the air. The Galactic Council, which had once mocked humanity, now sat in stunned disbelief. Varnok's claws tapped against the table, a nervous, restless sound. His HFY fleet, crushed, his people's military reputation, shaken. Daniel Carter simply stood there, calm, unshaken, as if this was just another meeting. "This is impossible," one of the alien delegates muttered, breaking the silence. "The HFY Dominion has never lost a simulation like this." Another alien, a tall, insectoid being, shuddered. That was not just a victory. It was a slaughter. A reptilian counselor narrowed his eyes. "You cheated." Daniel smiled slightly, but there was no amusement in his expression. "We used the resources available to us. The same as you." Varnok's voice was a low growl. "Your tactics were dishonorable. You refused direct engagement. You fled like cowards." Daniel turned to face him directly. "We fought to win. You fought the same way you always have. That's why you lost." The words hit deep. Some counselors exchanged uneasy glances. The HFY were one of the most feared warfaring species in the galaxy. But today, their strategies have been outdated, predictable, and completely ineffective. And humanity had exposed it. The galaxy's perspective shifts. A frail, elderly alien, a member of a once-conquered species, spoke hesitantly. "If humans could do this in a simulation, imagine what they could do in a real war." The words sent a ripple of tension through the chamber. Varnok snarled. "This was just a game. It does not prove anything in real combat." Daniel took a step forward. "Do you want to find out?" Varnok fell silent. The challenge was clear. Humanity was not asking for war, but they were not afraid of it either. The allies and the threats. Some species in the council had remained quiet until now, merely observing. But now whispers began to spread. Some alien leaders, especially from smaller, weaker civilizations, looked at humanity with newfound respect. If humans could stand against a HFY fleet, could they protect others? Could they be an ally worth having? But there were others, those who had once viewed Earth as an easy target, who now felt something they had never expected. Fear, A bulky, armored alien from a war-driven empire leaned forward. "What do you want, human?" Daniel met his gaze. "Recognition. Respect. A seat at this table." The alien scoffed. "And if we refuse?" Daniel's smile was cold and confident. "Then you'll make the same mistake the HFY just did." The council chamber grew colder. Varnok's final warning. Varnok, though humiliated, was no fool. He studied Daniel carefully, searching for weakness. Finally, he exhaled slowly and leaned back in his seat. "Very well, human. You have made your point." He gestured to the council. "Let them vote." The delegates whispered among themselves. Some were still hesitant. Others seemed convinced. But Varnok's gaze never left Daniel. "Enjoy your victory while you can, human," he murmured, voice low. "The galaxy is vast, and not all wars are fought in the open." Daniel did not flinch. "We know," he said, "and we are ready." The vote began, and in that moment, the fate of humanity was about to change forever. The chamber buzzed with tension. Every council member knew that this vote was no longer about a simple simulation. It was about the future of humanity. And, in many ways, the future of the galaxy itself. A seat at the council. A voice in galactic affairs. Respect or rejection. The delegates had mocked Earth before. Now they had to decide whether to acknowledge humanity as equals or continue treating them as insignificant. The vote begins. A shimmering holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. Each council member would cast their vote. Yes, accept humanity into the Galactic Council. No, reject them. One by one, the delegates submitted their decision. The insectoid representative hesitated, then tapped yes. A reptilian warlord scowled but voted no. A frail, elderly alien, whose homeworld had once been conquered by the HFY, nodded respectfully at Daniel before voting yes. The votes flashed across the screen, tallying in real time. Daniel Carter remained stone-faced. He knew this was not just about fairness or logic. It was about power, fear, and survival. Some species feared what humanity could become. Others saw Earth as a potential ally in a dangerous galaxy. But one thing was certain. No one viewed humans as weak anymore. The final vote. The vote count was close. Then, just before the last tally, Varnok stood up. "I call for a delay," he announced. "Humanity is still untested in real galactic politics." Murmurs spread through the room. Daniel immediately understood. Varnok was stalling. He wanted time. Time to plan. Time to weaken humanity's position. Time to ensure Earth never gained influence. But Daniel had learned something valuable today. This council did not respect pleas. It did not respect fairness. It respected strength. He stepped forward, his voice calm, controlled, but unyielding. "We do not need more time." The chamber fell silent. Daniel's gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of every delegate. "You have all seen what we can do. You have all witnessed how we think, how we adapt, how we fight. If that is not enough proof of our place at this table, then nothing ever will be." He turned to Varnok. "You claim we are untested. Then test us. You claim we are unproven. Then challenge us. But do not delay out of fear." Varnok's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Daniel let the silence linger before finishing. "Vote now. Humanity's place in the galaxy." The final vote was cast. A holographic display flashed green. Humanity is accepted into the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted into discussions, some supportive, some filled with anger. But it didn't matter. Humanity had won. Daniel exhaled slowly. This was only the beginning. Varnok stood rigid, his claws tapping against the table again, a nervous habit. He had underestimated humans once. He would not do so again. He leaned in slightly, voice low. "Enjoy your seat, human. But know this, power in this galaxy does not come from votes. It comes from force." Daniel smiled, but there was no amusement in his eyes. Then I suppose we'll see who's stronger. The war had not yet begun, but the first shot had just been fired. The council chamber buzzed with tension long after the vote had ended. Humanity had won their seat, but no one believed for a second that this was the end. Daniel Carter watched as the delegates filed out, their faces revealing everything he needed to know. Some species had voted for humanity out of genuine respect. Others had done so out of fear, a fear they now try to hide. And some had voted against Earth and were now plotting their next move. Varnock was one of them. A private warning. The HFY warlord approached Daniel just as he was leaving the chamber. "You are not welcome here, human." His voice was low, dangerous. "The council may have accepted you, but I never will." Daniel met his gaze without flinching. "You don't have to like it. You just have to live with it." Varnock's mandibles clicked in irritation. "We are warriors," he growled. "You are schemers. This victory of yours, it is built on words and tricks. But the battlefield does not lie. And when that day comes, you will not be able to talk your way out." Daniel smiled slightly. "You're right. But you've already seen what happens when we do fight. And if today has taught you anything, it should be this. Humanity never plays by the rules you expect." Varnock snarled but said nothing. He turned sharply and stormed off, his soldiers following behind him. Daniel let out a slow breath. This wasn't over. Earth prepares. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council spread like wildfire. Some celebrated. It was a historic moment. Humanity had secured its place in the stars. But the military leaders, the strategists, and those who understood how power worked in the galaxy, they were not celebrating. They were preparing. Warships moved into formation. Scientists accelerated research into advanced weaponry. Spies and diplomats worked to secure alliances. Because the truth was clear, this was not the beginning of peace. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. A final conversation. Daniel Carter sat in his office on the diplomatic station orbiting Earth, watching the stars. A transmission came through. It was from a small, lesser-known alien race. The ambassador's voice was nervous. "Counselor Carter, I must speak with you privately." Daniel leaned forward. "I'm listening." The alien hesitated. Then, in a whisper, he said, "They are planning something. The HFY. The ones who voted against you. This is not over. They will come for you." Daniel nodded slowly. He had expected this. "Then we'll be ready." The screen went dark. Daniel looked out at the stars once more. They had fought for a seat at the table. Now, they would fight to keep it. And when the time came, humanity would not be the ones caught unprepared.